Hi, my name is Ashley Abrams, and today I'll be talking with Paige Chan about the Young Elected Leaders Project, which is a research endeavor that is organized by Dr. Elizabeth Maddow of the Eagleton Institute of Politics to study the attitudes and perceptions of young elected leaders in a variety of areas. The abstract portion of the poster synthesizes what we did, as well as gives background for the project. The original Young Elected Leaders Project was started in 2002 by Ruth Mandel and Kathy Kleeman to examine young elected leaders at that time who happened to be Generation X members. In 2017, a cohort study similar to the cohort study from 2002 was launched for young elected leaders who are now Millennials and Generation Z. The background section of the poster talks about a literature review we did at the beginning of the year to assess youth attitudes about politics, both by reviewing literature on youth and politics as well as looking at the original Young Elected Leaders report from 2002. We found that youth political participation research is mostly centered on youth voting patterns and deals with quantitative raw data analysis. However, ours is different because it focuses on youth who have actually run for office and won, and is qualitative in nature. Our research methodology entailed a lengthy coding process of 11 interview transcripts. We would start by reading an interview transcript straight through without taking any notes. On our second read-through, we would read and bold anything that stood out to us. Things that we bolded may be anything that may turn into a certain theme or may give us future insight on the young elected leaders' attitudes about a particular subject. On the third read, we would underline anything that stood out to us, similar to how we bolded anything that stood out to us. It could be the same things that we bolded, or we could underline new things that we didn't notice before on the third read. On the fourth read, we would download the interview transcript into a qualitative research software called NVivo, and we would start creating nodes based on what we bolded and underlined. Nodes are words and ideas that we found in the transcript that we think we may be able to turn into bigger themes and ideas that we found from the overall transcript. So, for example, if a young elected leader started talking about how their spouse stepped in with childcare help while they were at meetings or doing something related to their position, then I would code that as support. On the final read, we consolidated narrower ideas into broader themes and categories that we found from reading the interview transcript. So for example, if we had two codes that said challenges during campaign and support during campaign, then we would consolidate them into a general campaign category. I am now going to pass on the presentation to Paige, where she will talk about the themes and ideas that we found from coding the interview transcripts, as well as what future research should focus on.
My name is Paige Chan, and I'll be taking over from Ashley. In the top portion of the middle section, we've included pictures of each of the 11 young elected leaders whose interviews we analyzed. We've also included a variety of quotes under three main categories: pathways to leadership, governing styles and philosophies, and their personal feelings about representing youth. We chose a variety of quotes that we thought encompassed the diversity found among these young elected leaders, and to demonstrate that although they are all part of the same generation, no two are identical. In the bottom portion of the middle section, we've included and illustrated information about the young elected leaders' demographics that we thought were particularly interesting and relevant, especially in comparison to the older generation of young elected leaders that we analyzed. We thought that office held, race by party affiliation, age group, parental status were key factors that could be looked at to compare what has changed and what has not over the generation. This section reflects categories that we found were most consistent in all of the young elected leaders' experiences in politics. Many of these categories as well were brought up in the original study, and so information here can help form preliminary results when comparing the two generations. One of the categories that I want to highlight is the desire to give back to community and desire to give service under governing. This sentiment was strongly reinforced in every single young elected leader's interview. Furthermore, social media, which is very much a unique tool to this generation and not found in Generation X, is another category I want to highlight because every single young elected leader used it during their campaign, and many used it when governing to help connect to the constituents in particular, but also to connect with other young elected leaders. Lastly, I want to highlight that we found party differences between Democrats and Republicans, particularly when it came to representation and whether substantive representation or symbolic representation was enough. Ultimately, the goal of the Young Elected Leaders Project is to create a cohesive, grounded theory about the similarities and differences between Generation X and millennial leaders. This year's work laid the foundation by establishing a rigorous methodology in analyzing qualitative data and presenting early themes that we found among the 11 interviews that we read. Future researchers should continue to build off these themes as well as utilize our methodology so that we are consistent results. Lastly, I would like to acknowledge everybody who's helped us, in particular our PI, Dr. Elizabeth Maddow, and our graduate research assistant, Brittany Andler.